Mistake number one, they're financially comfortable, which prevents them from hustling. Many consultants in their 40s and above are quite financially comfortable when they hang out the shingle. A multi-decade career has left them with a decent amount of savings, the house is paid off, so there isn't a lot of pressure. And so it happens that quite often I meet people who have been in business for 6 to 12 months or even longer, and they haven't had any revenue. They maybe bartered some of their skills away to somebody who built their website, or they've done some pro bono work. And that's only possible because they're eating into their savings. That would not be possible if they were in their 20s and 30s and they really would need to hustle in order to make ends meet. I once worked with a lady in her late 50s. She had been in business for over 2 years at that point, never had a paying client, and she worked about 20 hours per week on her business. The rest was all social obligations, networking, and a lot of leisurely activities. And so she was cruising towards retirement effectively, and getting her to do some work was like pulling teeth. And that is how past financial successes can be something of a curse when you are trying to start something new. By the way, what makes me qualified to speak about this? For over 5 years now, I've been working with over 140 B2B consultants, coaches, and agency owners. And I've spoke to about 800 more. So I've by now saw the patterns that make some people successful and some not. And these are the things that generally hold the older ones of them a little bit back. Let's say those aged 45 and above. Mistake number two, their ego prevents them from asking for referrals and proactively approaching strangers. The bigger our professional success, the more we fear losing our reputation. And of course, reaching out to our network systematically when we start out and ask for referrals, ask for business, that is terrifying, because as we start our new business, we lose status. A few weeks prior, we had a high-paying job in an influential position, often as gatekeeper to serious money and opportunity, plus a lot of implicit approval from our peers, given our position. And the next day, we're just some dude or gal flogging our expertise and trying to solicit business, when in the past it was just handed down to us. And so, of course, it's a massive loss of status. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Superficially, people are encouraging us to do it. They give us the thumbs up, but we have to take their approval for what it is. In part, they are happy because now there's one person less to compete with as they're climbing the corporate ladder. And in part, it's social convention to encourage entrepreneurship. The social contract demands positivity. But those positive vibes soon evaporate when now they are tasked in helping you out and referring you to someone. Now you're a little bit of a burden and you have very little to gain for helping you out. And so everyone can sense that when they are starting out. That's why many people are quite hesitant when it comes to reaching out to their network and proactively asking for business. You only do it very cautiously, half-heartedly, meekly, right? And you only talk to those people who were serious allies before, who you can trust, and you have often long, drawn-out coffees and lunches with them, although a quick notice would suffice. And if our ego keeps us from tapping into our network seriously, even to the slightly weaker links, all the more it keeps us from approaching strangers, because people talk, right? And so if we are out there approaching people, soliciting business, they will talk to each other, and God knows they will think badly of us. And those are all hangups that people without much to lose, the guys and gals in their 20s and 30s, very often don't have, and that's why they are most successful. In reality, your solicitation, if it's not applicable to them, will be forgotten within a couple of seconds. Not once has it happened in my life that somebody would forward me a solicitation from someone they knew and ridicule them and say, oh, look at that loser, he's asking for business, or anything like that. It doesn't happen. And so we need to take solace in this, and let's reach out confidently. Simply accept that the vast majority of people will not respond, but if we put in the numbers, then between 1% and 5% of people will book a call with you. But the fear of losing face in this way is sometimes so paralyzing for people who've already achieved a certain level of success that it completely prevents them from taking action. Couple that with the fact that they don't have financial pressure and they will never get off the ground. And mistake number three, they consider themselves above the menial tasks. So I graduated from business school in 2009. And while most of our classmates went to the fancy consulting firms and the investment banks, my friend Carlo started an ice cream shop. And when I came in, he didn't shake my hand because he gave me his elbow because his hands were covered in some horrible gunk. He had some plumbing issue. And after I came in, I saw him on his knees, scrubbing the floor and poking around with some coat hanger in some piping, pulling out some stinking gunk from a drain. And there he was, the graduate of a fancy MBA. And while his classmates were in fancy suits, having $30 martinis, he was on his knees digging out slop from a pipe. But that's what a business owner does. He's not above anything. Whatever the business needs, gets done. But many experienced consultants who hang out their shingle, they do consider themselves very often above certain tasks. For example, they almost always find somebody to set up a LinkedIn automation for them, connecting, messaging, and so on. Instead of acknowledging that sales and marketing is something they themselves need to get better in order to grow their business, they just want to outsource that stuff as soon as possible. And so while the young marketing bros who are starting an agency from their mom's basement don't mind at all to work 80 hours a week and send hundreds of personalized messages every day in the form of outreach, the experienced consultants very often shirk from that. They would not dream of doing this kind of repetitive labor that might land them a client. And so they rather hire people to do that work for them, which, by the way, also increases their cash burn rate. All the while they themselves, they do the fancy networking with the safe contacts that usually doesn't lead to much. And so honestly, the upshot for all of this is, if you're in the second half of your career and you started a consulting business, it's best if you give yourself some cash runway. Create some urgency for yourself so that you are forced to hustle and get your first business in. Within 6 months of you starting, you need to be self-sustaining. Your income needs to cover your expenses. You cannot be dipping into savings for longer than 6 months. If you set up that rule for yourself, you will be successful. And if you don't know where to start selling and marketing your services, watch this next video where at minute 6, I cover the exact right mindset you need in order to be successful selling your first stranger as a client.